Tonight, Senator John McCain uncut and on the record. Senator, nice to see you, sir.
Thank you, Greta. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you for letting us come to your office. You had some tough words for the Attorney General of the United States, Eric Holder. You said he botched the arrest of the underwear bomber in Michigan. In light of the fact that we hear he is talking, change your mind or not?
Well, first of all, we need more details on that, but intelligence has got a very short shelf life, and as rapidly as you can get the information, more rapidly you can react, particularly since the enemy knows you have that individual in your hands. But fundamentally, we should never have had this guy in that situation. We should have had him in a military tribunal, not a civilian court. A military tribunal is what terrorists are supposed to be put into. And we need to, one, clarification, and two, to tell the American people there'll never be a situation where someone who tries to commit a terrorist act on the United States of America would ever have access to Miranda rights and will be interrogated to try to get whatever information we can get to save American lives.
Well, it seems to me you have two choices in the situation. Either you can try him as a civilian or charge him as a civilian upon, or, when you get your hands on him, or you can consider him an enemy combatant. If you charge him as a civilian and he gets Miranda rights, I don't think we can back up. If you treat him as an enemy combatant and you decide later to charge him as a civilian, I think that's probably constitutional. Is the problem that the hair trigger was to charge him criminally and not to sort of consider enemy combatant, or don't you think they even thought that?
There should have been no consideration to give this person the rights that American citizens have. Miranda rights, the rights to a civil trial. He is an enemy combatant. An enemy combatant should be placed under the jurisdiction of the military and should be tried by a military commission. We should make that absolutely clear.
Do you think they want to they'd like a do-over on that, or do you think that the next time, I guess the American people wonder, okay, the next time, we hope there isn't a next time, but the next time this happens, do you have a sense from this White House, this Attorney General, that he will be treated as an enemy combatant, not civilian, and get Miranda rights right away, or is this still up in the air? Or is that still the way they approach it?
We need clarification. We need clarification. And I would also remind you the process. None of the three heads of our intelligence agencies, and Homeland Security, DNI, or counterterrorism, were ever asked or consulted before they decided to give this into the Christmas bomber the Miranda rights.
Why not? Why wasn't anybody called?
We have no answer to that question.
So it was just a single decision made by, presumably, the Attorney General?
Well, they said it was the Attorney General in consultation with lower-level FBI. There's many things that are coming out about this story. Supposedly, they have a group that's formed up that is supposed to be tailored to interrogate these suspects. Well, number one, that never happened. But number two, we now hear that has still not in being. The HIG, as they call it, High Intelligence Group or Interrogator Group, something like that, that a group of qualified individuals who are supposed to be dispatched when one of these individuals is apprehended to do the interrogation. That group not only wasn't there, but apparently they haven't been formed up yet, and it's been a number of months.
It's sort of interesting, the late night comedy about the underwear bomber, and he came and blew himself. I mean, all the jokes, but setting the jokes aside, we really got lucky. Because had that bomb gone off, there would have been over 250 people murdered. I mean, we really got lucky on that one.
I think we got lucky, and I also think that it's interesting that Osama bin Laden claimed credit for it. And there appears to be ties that this individual had to Al-Qaeda. And we don't need to go through all the fact that his father went to the embassy, that he showed up on a one-way ticket, that all of the things that should have, quote, connected the dots, a phrase I hate, by the way, but we should have. It never should have reached that point. And thank God for some brave people who were on that airplane.
Well, even a review, it's almost the point of delusional with all those red flags that, that we didn't, we got so lucky on that one. Real lucky.
We certainly did.
Don't ask, don't tell. You are still in favor of that policy in light of what Secretary of Defense Gates and Admiral Mullen said, or you think that things have now evolved and you're in favor of gays serving openly in the military?
Well, first of all, I know that it's working. I spend a lot of time with the military. It's working. Second of all, this decision was made by the president, not by the military, who have their hands full in 2 wars. Third of all, I respect the views of Admiral Mullen, who said it was his individual opinion, that we have not heard from the rest of the military leadership. And I'd be very interested in hearing from our military on this issue. And finally, I have a letter signed by over 1,000 retired admirals and generals, over 1,000, thousands of years of experience, that say, don't repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, because it could have an impact on our combat effectiveness. So they're going to, I hope, do a study. I hope we're going to get the opinion from our military leadership. And I have always said that I believe that Don't Ask, Don't Tell was working, and I believe it is.
In terms of the letter, how dated is it? Because I think that what some of the leaders have said is that, that was then, but that things have evolved, people's views. Is your letter, in the last year or two? Is it, how current is the letter?
The current, the letter is as, I believe, October of last year.
What is it that you think, if they serve openly, what is it the sort of effect it would have? I mean, tell me, play it out for me. What happens?
Well, as you know, in combat, our members of the military live very close together. That we are not prohibiting people who are of orientation that is homosexual or lesbian. We are not prohibiting them from serving. We are just saying that we do not talk about the fact. In other words, that's what Don't Ask, and we don't ask. So I think, again, when I talk to men and women in the military, they say it's not broken, so we don't need to fix it. But again, I will be very interested in hearing the views of our military leaders, particularly our Marine Corps, as well as Army, as well as Air Force, as to what they think that this policy needs to, whether it needs to be changed or not. But my view now is that it is working, and we are in 2 wars, and we need to have an assessment of the combat effectiveness and morale of our military, if that effect would be if we change the policy.
Admiral Mullen said it's his personal view. Secretary Gates is speaking on behalf of the President. In the event that after a full study, I think Secretary Gates has called for a study, let's say that 6 months down the road or a year down the road, that they conclude from the military leaders in theater who are fighting these wars, they say that we can get away, we can do away with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Would you then be in favor of doing it? Because it's a decision made here, not at the White House, right?
Yes, we will have a number of hearings. We had many hearings back before the policy of Don't Ask, Don't Tell was adopted. We will have many hearings. I'll be able to hear from our military leaders, and I believe that the present policy is working. If they can show me the evidence that it needs to be changed, obviously then I would give that serious consideration. That has been my consistent policy. But I do believe that the policy in effect today is working. The
economy, we got a big fat suggested budget dropped on your doorstep here on Capitol Hill. What's your thought on the President's budget and the effect on the deficit, and what are you going to do with it?
Well, I think it's horrific. I think that this incredible deficit and debt is an act of generational theft that is unconscionable. And somebody said the other day, you can't remain a world power if you owe the rest of the world such huge trillions of dollars of debt. I mean, and no country, no family, no business can continue to function if you have an ongoing debt and deficit of the magnitude we have. And for the President to say we're going to have a spending freeze next year, which could be $15 billion in savings, and immediately turn around and say, but we need a $100 billion jobs, i.e. stimulus bill, they haven't learned anything. They haven't learned anything. And the deficits as percent of GDP and size in every measurement are beyond anything that can be sustained for a long period of time.
Is one of the considerations, I mean, obviously one with this is standard of living and people's ability to hold jobs and build futures for their family. Is one consideration if the United States gets too far in debt with, for instance, China, that we sort of lose our our authority in the world, that we look weak? Is that a consideration to you or not?
If you continue to owe this amount of money, then you're not going to be able to pay it back. So then what happens? You debase the currency, and so that you can pay these debts back. Then you get inflation. Inflation is the greatest enemy of the middle class. But also, fundamentally, we shouldn't owe all this money to foreign countries, even though they wouldn't want to do it, particularly the Chinese. But they now have their hand on the throttle of the world's economy and our economy. And that is a terrible situation for America to find itself in. And by the way, it didn't start with the Obama administration. The spending was out of control under the Bush administration. But the magnitude in just 1 year of the spending increases is unbelievable.
Next, more with Senator McCain. Majority Leader Reid calls Senator McCain a sore loser and accuses Senator McCain of being a name caller. Well, we asked Senator McCain about Senator Reid, and well, stick around to see what Senator McCain has to say about Senator Reid. That's